JB here. Hope everyone's doing outstanding. October 18, 2024, 8:57 a.m. on this fine Friday. Talk really quick about the market. Some names I'm looking at. Go from there. Take a look at the S&P. Pretty much flat as a pancake yesterday. Opened solidly in the green after TSM's earnings kind of bolstered the semi market and pushed the rest of the tech sector. And then we just kind of chopped around, melted into the red, and then held our ground. S&P was flat. The Dow was up, and the Nasdaq was slightly in the red. Considering we're still at all-time highs, nothing crazy here. Overnight, you had China coming out with their data. GDP data came in above expectations, but still, I think it's a 2023 decline, the biggest decline since 2023 in regards to its GDP growth. So other numbers came in above expectations, but still some concerns there. And then some of the PBOC China, the bank officials hinting that they might issue another benchmark rate cut on Monday, which fueled some of the market rally along with the data. We'll see if one of these times, maybe this what's going on in China, the stimulus will stick and the markets can really start to take off. But for now, it's kind of wait and see mode. But take a look at the SPY 585 or so. Looks like possible resistance hit up there 3 times so far and found some resistance support 578 if things get dicey. Probably another chop fest here today into next week. Next week we get earnings. Doesn't really pick up. I think there's 200 companies reporting. This week was 100, led by Tesla, IBM. I'm trying to think of some of the other names reporting. But the following week is when things really start to heat up. But after the close yesterday, Netflix, just a monster beat and raise. I mentioned it. They don't give sub ads guidance anymore. And then eventually they won't even announce the numbers, that metric, starting in 2025, because they have so many different levers that they're pulling that the sub number isn't as important as it once used to be. But needless to say, huge revenue beat, huge EPS beat. They also talked about their margins. I think their margins were supposed to be like 26%. They came in at 30%. And they almost sounded like their ad business side is not going to be as profitable or a big driver of growth in 2025, which is kind of surprising. But I think some of that is because they're taking subscribers. And I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago. If anybody's been Netflix, I've been Netflix for decades. Whenever they first started doing the streaming, I used to get the DVDs to home, all that fun stuff. But you get the little message on your screen, and it's like you were automatically downgraded to the $6.99 ad version for me. And so we haven't changed it back. But to me, that makes me think that it's a heck of a lot more profitable for them to have you pay $6.99 with ads than to pay a higher tier. So just food for thought. So that's probably some reason that their ad side isn't going to show growth in 2024, because it's not, it's subsidizing the other side of it. So anyway, well, I'll have to see how that all plays out. But just a monster beat and raise, it just sets things up into next year. And it's almost like they used to, the big talk about Netflix used about them raising prices, right? And then they start raising prices, and now it seemed like they're content where they are, being like almost a value content provider. So all good stuff there. Netflix is up. Premium's going to get a little bit crushed. I mean, it's only up, what is it, $43. So was that less than about a 5.5% move. The implied move was almost 7%. I mean, I guess Sirius and money calls further out might see some green, but closer ones are going to get a little bit of crush. Might look at Netflix today for some lottos. If it goes down to 725 or so, I might look for some calls for 740 or so. All right, so that's the market. The VIX going in the right direction, under $19, so that's good. Let's see where it is right now, because I didn't even pull it up yet. Right at 1907. So hopefully that continues to trend in the right direction. And then last but not least is the amount of stocks over their 50-day moving average in the S&P. 76% of stocks are over their 50-day moving average. Another good sign. All right, so now individual names. And IWM held 225 like a champ yesterday. All of a sudden, markets were reversing. Small caps were taken on a chin, and then it hit 225 and bounced, and it's gapping here this morning. So good sign there for small caps. All right, individual names. Yesterday was one of those sit on my hands type of sessions. Some of the names I was looking at just didn't show any conviction. And then the one name I was really looking at was Dell, and I was looking to get some calls for next week. I have my eyes on the 140 strikes. It breaks over 130, and then it's kind of sitting around, and all of a sudden it just breaks up into over 131, test 131.60. I almost got those 140s. I think they were like 58 cents. I said, wait a minute. And then sure enough, since I think it was 12:30, 1 o'clock yesterday afternoon, it hit the highs and then just melted for the rest of the day, all the way down to under 129 right before the close, before a last minute ditch bounce. I still think this trades over 140 in the coming weeks. I might look for November strikes instead of the October 25s. But this whole backdrop, now you had TSM, AMD with their event, NVIDIA with all the hype that's coming out. It just all bodes well to me for the end server side, which, I mean, Dell, Supermicro, but Dell's my favorite of that bunch. Roku, not much here to add on Roku. I was hoping for a bigger gap to the upside, considering Netflix's report. It is gapping, but it's got to break that 80 handle. So it's going to be tough for my strikes. If it breaks over 80 today, I'll wait a little bit and then I'll add some calls. Like I said the other day, it broke over 80 right at the open, tested 870, and then boom, sellers came in and pushed all the way down under $78. Still like this name for upside. They're going to report earnings on October 30th, so I think that's a Wednesday. Uh, I'm not doing my math here. 25, 50. Yeah, I think that's Wednesday. So earnings, so the premiums on the strikes ending November 1st, excuse me, are very expensive, whereas next week's aren't as expensive. So maybe I'll look to get the October 25th first, see what happens, and that's only on a break on 80 and hold. That's Roku. So already talked about the Asia markets, China overnight. Wins up at 99 and change here. If that gets over $100, uh, I'll be looking for some more strikes. I've said this before. I think there were two more analysts yesterday. Wells Fargo and Barclays both adjusted and kept their overweight ratings and buy ratings on WYNN and adjusted their price targets. It's just a slew of these analysts just came out, and some of that I guess is a function of the stock running up from $7 to $8 at the end of September. But I just think it's setting up well into earnings. So they're going to report earnings, I think, the first week of November. So don't be surprised if I add more strikes there on that. Clear Secure, not much to update here. Flat as a pancake, almost tested 38 yesterday, multi-year highs. Would really like to see like an overshoot over $40 and then be able to lock some of my Januaries in to cover costs. Then maybe some consolidation like it's done. And then I'll add more strikes for the move to 45 and beyond. They'll report earnings in November too. I think it's the first or second week of November. Also, SE yesterday, just so disappointing. All the way up to 101.60 after the open, and then just sold off all the way down, close under $99. 101.60 is a multi-year high as well. Gets over 100, holds. I'll look for more strikes there. Really love this story. Not much here to talk about on Redfin either, but still have the January strikes. Redfin came out with a report that the September pending home sales is at the highest level in over a year and a half. I don't know if that's put wind in the sails, but this whole backdrop, I'm surprised it hasn't really resumed its uptrend. At some point, it maybe needs a kick in the butt. Maybe this is the news. I don't know, but I'll continue to look for opportunities there. Biogen, slightly in the green yesterday. Still like this one. Unfortunately, it's not cooperating. I'll be depending if it holds green and trades up today, or even I'll wait till next week to get some November strikes to encompass its earnings. I think the bottom's in. And then last but not least, and this is a name I still have to do more due diligence on. I saw the Wall Street Journal, I think it was an article yesterday, the day before, to Huma, HUMA is the ticker, Humacyte. It seems like the company's been around a while, and then I start looking at social media. It seems like it's a very divisive name. There's a lot of folks who are bullish. There's some who are negative. There's a 17% short interest. And funny, after I was on the rant yesterday afternoon, all of a sudden the stock's selling off because there was an FDA Form 483, which is kind of an inspection of the facilities. And I guess there was some red flags or issues, but this inspection happened in April. So 6 months later, this form hits the market right after a Wall Street Journal article on the name. So kind of it's kind of like a little sketchy there, right? So I don't know if that's a good thing or bad thing. It almost reminds me of one of my favorite stocks nowadays is Clear Secure, and it was just sketchy that you had this Bloomberg hit pieces coming out on the company, right? It's like someone was feeding them information to publish this to help instill shorts and selling and fear so that their short position can pay off, right? So I don't know if it's a similar situation, but I have to do more due diligence. Unless I'm able to do it during the market hours, I'll probably just revisit over the weekend. But certainly looks like an interesting name. I mean, it's $600 million market cap, no revenues, but there's approvals. They're waiting on approvals, and it's one of those companies that could be the start of something, right? So, anyway, I'll have more on it. Don't be surprised if I'm talking more about it this afternoon on the rant. I think that's it, folks. Let's have a great afternoon. Also, I might do more lottos like I did last week with AMD. AMD was a nice one. Don't be surprised if I try Netflix. Intuitive Surgical had a great quarter, hitting all-time highs here in the pre-market. And also ASML. And ASML had some, I guess you would call it negative news this morning. I guess the report out from someone saying that Samsung is um, not going through with orders or something like at their Texas plant. I don't know. I don't know what to read through. All I know is this stock is took it on the chin. Does it deserve to be down here at 714 or so based on its guidance? Maybe it bounces. So the premiums yesterday when I was looking, I think it was at 702, 703, and I started looking, and 735s are expensive and 730. So to me, on a risk reward basis with 1 day to expiration, that didn't make sense. But if I can get the 720s today or the 725s for 25, 30, 40 cents at some point in the morning, I may look to get those for lottos. And that's it, folks. 22 minutes to open. Let's have a great day. Rock and roll.